friends. Welcome back to Super Freak. I've had a short little lovely winter break here in Australia, and we're back today with a conversation that is lighting up the phones here at work, or should I say Zoom. It's lighting up Zoom here at the moment in my little my practice over here. There's a lot of conversation around what to do when you feel stagnated, when you feel stuck, when you feel frustrated, when you've been working hard at something and nothing is moving for a while. What do we do? What do we do? Now, what I love about this conversation is that for most of the people I coach, I will say all of the people that I coach, feeling stuck and stagnated is not a sign to quit. Contrary to popular opinion, it's not a signal that things are going wrong and maybe you should slow down and think about a different alternative strategy in the sense of thinking in the same way, just changing what you're doing. It's actually a signal that you're ready to go to the next level. So I'm really excited to bring this episode to you today, and I have something special for you at the end too, to help you along if you would love to continue the conversation with me, to have some support to actually take yourself from good to great. So the answer to today's query that has been lighting up the phones, like I said, this query to what to do if you feel stuck is unexpected. And I'm going to share it straight away. It's in the title of the podcast. Usually it's a signal that it's time for a big, beautiful change. So today's episode is 10 signs that it's time to go from good to great and how to do it. Now, I want to tell you this straight up. You might not feel ready to go from good to great right now because these signs don't necessarily feel good. A lot of people interpret these signs and signals as a reason that maybe they should quit. Maybe it's not going to work. Maybe it's not meant for you. And quite often, this is a moment where we really risk giving up or quitting on ourselves. And it's such a pivotal time to actually sit down and give yourself permission to do things differently. Not in the way that I mentioned before where, you're trying out this particular social media strategy, now you're going to try another one. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about thinking way bigger. This is such a pivotal time to give yourself permission to go from good to great. So I'm going to give you these 10 signs today, but they're broken up into 5 parts. And part 1 is recognizing the stagnation. See, the stagnation, stuck, it's a sign. Part 2 are the external indicators that you're ready to go from good to great. Part 3 are the internal indicators. Part 4 are the risks and the opportunities. And part 5 are your leadership and your influence signals or signs as well. So let's dive straight in with part 1. So part 1 is all about recognizing the stagnation. Now, the first sign of recognizing stagnation is that you have a plateaued performance. What does that mean? Well, a plateau is when you're noticing a consistent amount of growth over time, and that growth seems to progress, and that growth seems to accumulate and perhaps even start to compound. And so you come to expect that you're going to have the same level of growth over time consistently. But what happens is when you plateau, you're putting in the same amount of time, you're putting in the same amount of effort, but the results are not consistent with the time and effort that you're putting in. In fact, the results, you don't seem to be getting the same results they're stagnating, they're stopping, that you're not getting as much of a result out of the same amount of time and effort. Now, most people would go, well, maybe I just need to try a little bit harder. And so they do. And this is where we can start to feel, once again, a little bit stuck, a little bit frustrated, even a little bit exhausted and burnt out because the same thing that we're applying is not having the same effects. So consistent effort might not yield increased results. It kind of starts to, like I said, plateau. So examples of where this can happen are if you are in sport, you might be noticing that your training is typically advancing you towards the next kind of level or the next achievement or the next tournament. You're feeling like you're progressing, you're getting stronger. And all of a sudden, you're not experiencing the same level of growth. You're not able to do a consistent amount of increase in weights or increase in load for yourself. You're not getting that same growth or the increased results. Or you're noticing that on a health journey, you've been putting in a certain amount of effort with your diet and exercise, and perhaps your body has been changing and you're noticing consistent changes, and all of a sudden the changes kind of stop. Perhaps it's in business. The same things you were doing before used to yield a certain amount of sales or a certain amount of results. And you're noticing that those same things are no longer yielding the same amount of money or clients or whatever it might be. It could also just be that the same amount of effort is not yielding the same amount of joy in whatever it is that you're doing. If you're in a corporate career, it could be that you were noticing progression and you were getting certain feedback, you were getting promotions, you were getting pay rises, things were kind of consistent with growth. Every time you were getting a performance review, you might be getting good feedback, but all of a sudden you seem to have plateaued and you can't seem to break through a certain level in the company or in the business. These are signals that you have a plateaued performance. Some of them are external recognition, but some of them are internal. You just kind of feel like you're not getting anywhere, you're not growing. This is a great sign that you're ready to go from good to great. But as you can hear, it doesn't feel so good when you're experiencing it. A plateaued performance actually feels crap because you're getting less result with the same amount of effort as before. It actually feels really, really disheartening. And so I want to once again remind you that going from good to great, these 10 signals, we are really, really at risk of feeling like maybe it's time I should quit or change or stop doing what I'm doing, when these are actually signals for something else. So please know that going from good to great requires a leap. It requires a sense of kind of trust in the unknown, I suppose. But there is a price of entry, and that price of entry is being able to recognize that where most people stop, someone who takes a leap from good to great sees all those times as an opportunity. Okay, so the first sign is a plateaued performance. It's not a bad thing, it's an opportunity. Sign number 2, you're feeling a lack of a challenge. Bit bored, really. Not so much fun. And it's similar, right, to the plateaued performance, because you might be putting the same amount of effort in, but you're just not feeling like it's as exciting or it's as fun anymore. You might be feeling a little bit unchallenged or a little bit too comfortable in your current role or situation. Now, for some people, this is like the dream. You know, you get to a certain point and what once felt hard now feels easy and kind of boring, and you can focus your efforts on other things and create, let's call it drama for a better, lack of a better term. You can create that drama, that excitement outside of work, and work is no longer the thing that brings you that kind of passion and challenge. That's perfectly okay. That's where I would suggest learning a language, getting dance lessons, traveling more, you know, exploring different hobbies and things outside of work. But when it's an opportunity to go from good to great, it's typically in an area of life where you would love to see good to great, but you're feeling that lack of a challenge. It typically happens in career, work, sport, an area where you feel like you want to perform. It might be you're a singer, you're a performer. And it might be that, yeah, you're feeling just a little bit like, oh, this is not as exciting. You know, when you're learning a musical instrument, you know, like the same old chords just don't really get you going anymore. So it's really important in these moments to recognize that bringing in the challenge and decreasing the boredom does require you to step outside of the comfort zone. This is the price of entry that I was talking about when it comes to going from good to great. It's not a bad thing to be a little bit bored. It's just when you are looking to excel, you want to have two different options to deal with the boredom. So if you're quite happy with your performance, you're not looking to go from good to great, this is a great signal that it's time for you to kind of chill, enjoy your success, go find joy and drama and, you know, the challenge elsewhere. But if it is a case of you actually do see yourself going further and further and further, it's an opportunity. Like I said, use it as an opportunity to go from good to great. So these are the first 2. That's part 1, just recognizing the stagnation. I've got heaps of examples coming up. Part 2 now is looking at the external indicators. These are the external indicators or signs that you're ready to go from good to great. So sign number 3 is that there is increased, let's call it competition or increased saturation. So maybe you have put yourself in a new kind of arena. Maybe you have already up-leveled to a level of competition where everyone is better than you, or you're surrounding yourself by more successful people. That could be increased competition. It could be increased saturation in, say, an industry. It could be that there are just more and more and more people kind of in that field and you need to be able to stand out. It could be increased competition or increased saturation in many other ways as well. It could be that you're putting yourself in a certain environment or that the environment is changing around you. Now, rising competition in your field or in your industry, once again, is not a bad thing. It's a signal that is a great field or a great industry, and it's a signal there is a lot of opportunity for growth. And once again, lots of people get disheartened by more competition. I don't know if you know this about me, and I always bring up times when I was a martial artist, but I used to coach my competitors because I just love the idea that if I was heading into competition, I knew everyone was at the top of their game. And so whoever won on the day was truly, truly the best. It wasn't, there's always an element of luck in a tournament, but I loved the idea that we were all just at our very best. And I happened to be so blessed to be on the training team with like the best people in Australia who always made it to the finals with me. So yeah, coached my competitors. A bit weird, but I love the saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think that is just a huge, huge, huge part of this whole increased competition and increased saturation being an external indicator that you're ready to go from good to great. It's such a catalyst for growth. And if you've ever put yourself into a field or maybe a mentorship or a program, or you've had a promotion where you've walked into a space, a company, a mastermind or something where everyone around you is playing at a really big level, it is so energizing. It's so inspiring. It truly does impact. I can speak for myself only, but it truly does impact me as a human. It makes me want to be better. It makes me want to it kind of opens my mind and my creativity. So I love when there's increased competition, increased saturation, because it makes me have to focus more and drill down a little bit more on, what makes a person stand out? How can I elevate? How can I surround myself with the best so I can continue to grow despite, the noise? Now, the best example that I can actually give you is Apple. There are so many examples of Apple and how they leveraged competition to actually elevate themselves. But most of us, I suppose, it depends on how old you are, but remember the early 2000s when the music industry was changing once again. And we had it felt like very briefly, these websites like Napster, and companies were really struggling to adapt to this digital distribution model of music and a legal distribution model. And you could download music at this time, and you couldn't do it before. And at that very moment, Apple in 2001 launched the iPod and the iTunes store in 2003, and they offered a legal, user-friendly way to purchase and manage digital music. And they transformed the music industry like overnight, making digital music accessible and profitable for musicians, well, for everyone really, while establishing itself as a leader in the consumer electronics and digital media when it was effectively a computer company. So it's such a fab example of how that competition is just an opportunity to totally think outside the box and innovate and dominate, really. Now, if you're thinking inside the box, if you're thinking incrementally, if you're thinking like, how can I apply this strategy and just try a little bit harder so hopefully I can beat my competition, you can see how it might have been really noisy, but they didn't do that. Now, another really simple example of increased competition, increased saturation is the coaching industry right now. So right now, it's never been easier to say, become a coach or rebrand yourself to a new kind of coach. The barrier for entry is so unbelievably low. You could literally do some kind of random coaching course over a weekend. You don't even need to do that. You can just hang your shingle up and call yourself a coach. It's ridiculous. But the barrier for success, though, is actually quite high because of the level of saturation and needing to stand out. Now, we're also seeing in the last 10 to 15 years, the online marketing industry kind of merging in a big way with the online coaching industry, which in so many ways has been really, really cool. But we're also seeing now some of the ethical dilemmas of people without quality training or perspective, lowering the overall perception, I suppose, of the industry as a whole. It's like the Wild West. If you're not in this industry, you won't maybe understand that. But if you are in it, you'll get what I'm saying. It is like the Wild West. I'm excited to see what innovation comes out of this. However, what I can already see is that people tend to be making one of two choices. They're either getting disheartened by the level of saturation and noise and kind of leaving the industry. Or option two, they're recognizing that having a sort of ethical lens and a commitment to excellence as a craft are just standout qualities and an opportunity to excel in this industry for the long term. So when there's increased competition, there is a huge opportunity to stand out. There is a huge opportunity to excel, to learn and to grow. And like I said, a rising tide lifts all boats. So I want you to start thinking that these signs can be either really draining or really energizing, depending on how you look at them. And when you're ready to go from good to great, you don't have to see them as energizing, but you're already good to go from good to great if you're feeling like these are some things that are going on for you. So sign number 4, we're still on external indicators. Sign number 4 are changing needs. Now those needs might be the customer's needs if you're in business, or they could be your own needs changing. You know, a lot of, I'm technically a millennial. A lot of my millennial friends are going through huge changes in their lives whereby they're experiencing having kids, their kids growing up. You know, I mean, every generation has different transitions. I'm just noticing these things in my friends, but our own needs changing means our needs for work and our needs for time and our needs are very much changing. As a society, back in 2020, everyone's needs changed. We all needed to get online in order to be able to continue doing our work. So it is no longer okay to kind of rest on your laurels and continue doing what you were doing 20 years ago, because the world is changing so quickly now. If you stop, technically you're going backwards. I'm not saying that to scare anyone. If you're currently sitting there and thinking, but I need to take a break right now, I'm burned out, I have a disability, you know, I actually can't keep up with the world. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about stopping in that regard. I'm talking about not having a growth-focused mindset, not having an opportunity-focused mindset, not having a mindset that says it's okay for me to be exactly who I am and where I'm at. It's safe for me to actually find a way for this to work for me and find a way to innovate and make things work around me. There has never been a better opportunity or a better time for folks who typically don't fit the mold to actually have success in their lives. What I'm saying is, if you choose to stop thinking about growth, because the world is moving so quickly, you will start to find that you're kind of falling backwards. I don't think there's a problem with it. It's just something interesting to note. But as humans, our needs and expectations really do evolve over time. As technology changes, as our values shift in society, as the economy ebbs and flows, we become more socially aware of things. It used to be okay to have, for example, you know, you might have heard this saying, you've got 1 year of experience and you just repeated it 20 years. You don't have 20 years of experience. It used to be okay to have 1 year of experience and repeat it for 20 years to get to the top. But now, with the way technology and information and our societal values have evolved, and the exponential way that our ability to communicate and find information has evolved, it's no longer, it doesn't work anymore. So it's really important for businesses and just people within those businesses to accept that innovation is a good thing. It doesn't have to be draining. Innovation in terms of how to make your work suit your needs. And then also, if you are a service provider or a business provider, exceeding expectations and listening to what people really want. Now, again, I don't think it's that hard to stand out. I'm going to continue to give you some examples here, but as a signal, you can see how it could be really disheartening to go, oh my gosh, the world is changing so quickly and my customers' needs and demands are getting higher and higher and higher. What am I supposed to do? Or you can go, you know what? Things need to change. I'm going to listen to what people want and I'm going to adapt. And that's how we actually keep things going. This can be draining or it can be really exciting. Okay. So the other day, I'll give you an example. This is a local example. I was so excited about this experience. I posted it on Facebook, but I went to my local grocer, which is actually an hour away because I live far away from everything. I went to my local grocer and I love going there so much because I walk in the door and everyone who works there knows my name. I don't know how they know my name. I mean, I guess they've seen it on my card when I pay for things, but I'm not in there that frequently that I don't think I'm an easy to remember person necessarily. It's not a small town. It's like it blows my mind that they remember my name every time. Not only do they remember my name, they remember my husband's name. And even though he hasn't been in there for a few months, they ask about him every time I walk in the door. How's he going? How's his work? It's so lovely. But not only that, they have a cafe at the front. It's like a health food kind of co-op thing. They have a little cafe at the front and I order a chai. I walk in, order a chai, and they say, we'll bring it to you. So not only do they say hello, ask about me, ask about my family, I order a drink and I walk around and they come and bring it to me while I'm shopping. It's literally my dream. It's the best experience ever. It is above and beyond expectations. I mean, it's a great place to shop. It's a great place to be. I like it because it's not bright. There's no like crazy loud music playing. You know, I don't typically like supermarkets. This is just a beautiful place. So I shop there because I like that sensory kind of experience. I'm a sensitive little being. But this extra thing that they do, no one asked them to do it. It is such a standout quality. And for that reason, I love to shop there. Now, in a world where the customers' needs are changing, it is so much easier to just go onto the Woolies website, Woolworths in Australia, and, you know, order your shopping online and then pull into the car park and someone literally brings it to me. In a world where that's becoming the norm, I am more likely to drive an hour into town, park in the little car park and drive in there and walk around the shop and get everything myself because I love that experience so very much. So it's not always about adapting to what everyone else is doing, but there are other ways that you can kind of stand out. So the number 4 sign is that there are changing needs. Now, the way that you adapt to those changing needs or your needs changing does not have to be the way that everyone else is adapting. There are opportunities. That's what I'm saying. So another great example is Netflix. Now, did you know that Netflix was not the Netflix we know of today? It started in 1997. Like before Apple had an iPod, Netflix existed. It started as a DVD rental by mail service. So you didn't have to go to the DVD store. Customers order the DVDs online and receive them via the mail. Then customers wanted more convenience and flexibility compared to like traditional video stores. So they introduced a subscription model in 1999, allowing them to rent DVDs with no due dates, no late fees, and no shipping charges. How cool is that? Then the internet speeds increased, digital media consumption grew exponentially. Customers began seeking instant access to entertainment rather than needing to wait for the postman. So in 2007, Netflix then launched its streaming service, and subscribers could watch TV shows and movies instantly over the internet. Now, I mean, it's caused other challenges to society that the next episode button is readily available if you happen to be susceptible to binge watching. Ask me how I know. However, this move positioned Netflix as a pioneer in the streaming industry, catering to a growing demand for on-demand entertainment. Then subscribers wanted more, an extensive library of content to choose from. So Netflix started really aggressively expanding, and it secured licensing deals with major studios and major networks. So we're seeing from a little DVD rental by mail service now having these licensing deals with studios and networks. And then because of that, there was this vast selection of content. It helped attract a broader audience. It retained existing subscribers. Pretty much everyone now has a subscription to Netflix. And then once again, another shift in demand happened and the streaming became more popular, competition increased, and exclusive content became the key differentiator. So now Netflix has its own Netflix exclusive shows. They began producing original content in 2013, starting with House of Cards. Anyone remember that show? I haven't watched it actually, but the result was the series like Stranger Things, The Crown, Orange is the New Black, it all attracted millions and millions and millions of subscribers and garnered critical acclaim, establishing Netflix as a leader in content creation. So they've gone from DVDs to content creation. Then viewers wanted a personalized recommendation to easily find content that they would enjoy because it got so huge. So once again, they invested heavily in data analytics, machine learning to develop sophisticated recommendation algorithms. So now we're into the binge watching phase where subscribers are engaged. We increase our viewing time. We're getting recommendations based on what we're already watching. So there's this enhanced kind of user experience. Then international audiences wanted to access Netflix streaming services and content. So Netflix expanded to over 190 countries by 2016. They adapted their content offerings to then include local languages, culturally relevant programming, and the result was global expansion, which meant they increased their subscriber base. They made themselves a worldwide leader in entertainment effectively. Then we're not even up to the pandemic. Then people were using mobile phones more, right? So customers wanted the flexibility to watch content on the go, download it, take it onto a plane. So Netflix optimized then an app for mobile viewing and introduced the ability to download content for offline access in 2016, which meant travelers, enhancing user satisfaction, accessibility, etc. Then obviously COVID-19 happened. It increased the demand for home entertainment, and Netflix continued to release new content and accelerated production where possible, keeping the subscribers really, really engaged during lockdown. This is when we really saw Netflix go kind of next level. The pandemic really led to a surge in subscribers and solidified Netflix as like the go-to source for entertainment. So we're still on, changing needs, right? You can see here that not only were they looking at like social awareness of things, Netflix was aware of what people wanted. They were responding to how people need things, the types of changes that, and the world changes, and just simply responding to that. They were taking on feedback and adapting. Now, another example, this is a really simple example, is in the coaching industry. This is something that I talk about, obviously, because I'm in it. But people want more high touch with coaches now. When the online marketing merged with the online coaching industry, coaching became something where, you had to pay for more kind of high touch experiences with coaches, but less and less people became available for one-on-one, because we started seeing people, the messaging became, that you can't have a successful business just as a one-on-one coach. And more people were developing courses and experiences and things like that. But what we're seeing is in this online world where everything is high tech, people just want more high touch. That's what they want. They want you to get to know them. They want their coaching tailored. They want it guaranteed to work. It's no longer okay, for example, to get on a phone and read a sales script. Everybody knows the script. It feels impersonal. They want things to be tailored to them, and they want things to be guaranteed to work, and they want to know that they're going to get the best experience possible. So something to think about. Okay, part 3 now. We're moving from external drivers to internal drivers, internal signals within you that say that you're ready to go from good to great. Sign number 5 is that you have this really deep desire for impact. So what you'll typically notice is you start to feel dissatisfied. You're feeling like you want to make, I hear people say this all the time, I want to make a bigger impact. I want to leave a legacy. But mostly it's that word impact. Now, often I speak with clients who are ready for this, but they're feeling stuck. It's not that they are focusing on the fact that they want to make an impact. They're actually focused on the feeling of being really frustrated that they're not making the impact that they want. They're enjoying what they're doing, but they have this it's more than a desire. It's like a deep craving to have a real impact on people, to really help them, and to feel like that they have made a difference. And oftentimes when I'm talking to folks, they feel like the way they've done things up until now is good. It's created success, but it's only reaching a certain point, a certain level of, let's say, depth, but they want to go so much further. Now, for me, I remember working as an interior architect and sitting on the phone one day with a client. I was working in an architecture studio, and this client was complaining to me that she needed the builder to come back because there was a crack in the floor and she was really dissatisfied. And I had to explain to her, for not the first time, that marble was a natural stone and it wasn't a crack. It was called a vein in the marble. And not every piece of stone is the same because it's a natural product. It's not a crack. It looks like that because it's marble, and you ask for marble. It's very expensive. And I remember sitting on the phone and I thought, oh my God, I love so much making people's homes and spaces really beautiful so they feel like they can truly live and thrive in those spaces. I will always adore the field of interiors. But in that particular moment, I was so frustrated. I felt like, what am I doing? I'm not helping people. This is like the most ridiculous conversation. What am I doing with my life? This is the wrong kind of client. And I remember talking to my dad about how I just had this deep craving to just help more people. My dad's a builder, and he was like, you are helping people. You're making their spaces beautiful. I was like, I know, but I want to do more. So I see people do this. They start a career, they're doing something, they love it, and they realize like they just want to be having deeper conversations with folks. That is the desire for impact that I'm talking about. Now, here is an example of someone, a couple of people actually, who I think exemplify this really well. The first one is Oprah Winfrey. So Oprah began her career, we all know Oprah, news anchor, right? And then hosted local talk show in Chicago. And her mission, though, was to empower and inspire people. And it drove her then to create the Oprah Winfrey Show, which became the highest rated talk show in American television history. And the way she transitioned to greatness, let's call it, was her authentic approach. She had this dedication to meaningful content, and it resonated with millions, and it turned her into a mogul in the media, and she was a philanthropist. And then she launched her own network, Oprah Winfrey Network, and continues to impact lives through these philanthropic efforts and her personal development initiatives. So this is someone who was doing this amazing job, had a reasonable level of success, and was like, no, I want more. I want deeper conversations. Another great example is Malala Yousafzai. Malala Yousafzai began advocating early on for girls' education in Pakistan at a really young age, and she wrote a blog under a pseudonym because she couldn't use her own name. And she had this commitment to education and gender equality, and it really motivated her activism. But her transition was she survived a Taliban assassination attempt. Malala was shot, and after she was shot, she became a global symbol of the fight for girls' education. Now, that could have been a devastating reason for her to stay quiet and not say anything and be more scared than ever, but she instead co-authored the memoir, I Am Malala, and she founded the Malala Fund, which now champions education for girls around the world. It was so risky. She became the youngest ever Nobel Prize laureate as well. So that was sign number 5, that we have this internal drive for more impact. Sign number 6 is another internal drive. And it is you have a passion for excellence, just a passion for it. I love this. It's a passion for excellence. It's a passion for continual improvement. It's a passion for not giving up and not stopping, and almost a demand, right? It can be a sign that you're ready for the next level, but it can also feel like you're really frustrated by what you see. And I will say as well that if you look around and you study people who have had this actual passion for excellence, they're not necessarily always appreciated by others, because the passion for excellence can once again come out in a frustration at a lack of standard. It can almost come across as being, angry at people, demanding for yourself and for others. It's a really frustrating feeling for a lot of people, but it is a signal that you're ready to go from good to great. So another great example, and these are 2 of my favorite athletes in history, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was a standout player in high school and college basketball, but he did face some initial challenges. He was cut from his high school varsity team, but he had this relentless work ethic. He had this really competitive spirit, a desire to be the best, and it drove him to constantly improve his skills. There are so many stories about Michael Jordan's work ethic, Michael Jordan's demand on his team members and himself, and he is known as one of, in my opinion, the greatest basketball players of all time, winning, forgive me if I'm wrong, I think it's 6 NBA championships with the Chicago Bulls, 5 MVP awards, numerous records. His commitment to excellence, his passion for excellence, not just on the field, but off the field, on the court and off the court, he set a new standard for professional sports. And don't even get me started on the sports deals and the brand deals. And he is one of the most well-known athletes of all time. If you haven't watched it, go to Netflix, another example in this episode. You can watch the series The Last Dance. It is phenomenal. I loved it. And I highly recommend, if you want to be able to understand the frustration that a passion for excellence can bring and the challenges that it brings, it's a great show. Another athlete that I love to use as an example here is Serena Williams. She showed a lot of promise in tennis from a young age. She was coached by her father alongside Venus, her sister. She had this dedication to her sport, this rigorous training regimen. She had this mental toughness that she was born into, conditioned by. And I mean, seriously, she's won 23 Grand Slam singles titles, the most by any player in the entire Open era. She is the greatest of all time, and numerous double titles as well. But her passion for excellence has kept her at the top of the sport for over 2 decades. She has inspired millions of people. She has revolutionized the fashion in sport industry. Again, brand deals, she is not only that, she's invested in a lot of unicorn companies. She's now an investor. She's an incredible human being. I just love reading and listening and watching Serena in interviews now and what she's doing. And she's got this daughter, Olympia. She's just the best. But there's a movie called King Richard about Serena Williams' upbringing and once again, this demonstration of a passion for excellence. And I just loved it. I cried a lot watching that movie. So that, my friends, was sign number 6 that you're ready to go from good to great. Passion for excellence. And now we move into part 4, the opportunities and the risks. So sign number 7 is that there are new opportunities available for growth. Now we are at a time right now, it's 2024 at the time that I am recording this podcast. And there are opportunities for growth like we have never seen before. We are seeing the introduction of, I was about to say artificial insemination. Artificial intelligence. Can you tell I live on a farm? Anyway, there are so many opportunities for growth with artificial intelligence. Let's just call it AI. And these opportunities can act as a springboard for greatness. Now, I'm not saying that you have to use AI like everybody else in order to keep up. That's a lot of the messaging that they were receiving out there. If you don't do it now, you're going to fall behind. And I don't particularly like that. I like the idea that, we don't want to be stagnant because yes, we can fall behind. But I don't like the idea that we need to just use what everyone is using for the purpose of being able to keep up. That's not what I'm talking about. When we're talking about utilizing new opportunities, we're talking about understanding that there is an exponential opportunity available and you can utilize those exponential opportunities to springboard you to make your ability to think easier, to make your time a little bit more leveraged, to help you innovate with perhaps the technology that you currently do use. There are opportunities for you to use that in a way that works for you. Now, I'm actually going to give you a really basic example in this regard because I remember a few years ago when the ability to do voicemail, you could leave voice messages to people. I remember when that opportunity came out. And actually, I only learned about it because I was dating someone in another country and they taught me about this app that you could use where we could kind of stay in touch with using voice messages instead of just text messages. And I loved it. It was so awesome. But I remember there was a point in time in my business, it was around 2018, 2019, when I was at capacity with how many people I could actually have booked on my calendar, but I wanted to actually help more people. I wanted to work with more people, and I also wanted to have a little bit more freedom and flexibility in my calendar. And I didn't want to do it through a course. I still wanted to be working with people, one-on-one. So I had this idea that maybe I could just do Voxer coaching. Now, Voxer is an app where you can essentially do like a walkie-talkie thing with your clients, with people, with other people. This was the app that I used when I was dating someone in another country, like I mentioned. And I remember thinking, imagine if I could just, people have always given me this feedback that they wish they could just have me in their pocket. What if we could use this app? It sounds so simple now because so many people do it. But it wasn't. I'd never heard of it at the time. Maybe it already existed. I hadn't heard of it. But what if I could just offer people a way to have someone, a coach in their pocket that they could connect to at any time, not necessarily a certain time of the day? And I came up with this idea of the 90-day transformation. And there were so many people who were so excited about it and they loved it. And I've actually kept Voxer as a way of communicating with my clients in every single one-on-one offering ever since that year because of the way it was so successful. And I actually find now that because I have an international audience, clients are really happy to use Voxer with me because they can connect with me and ask questions and talk about things and give feedback and share what's going on with them at any time of the day. And I get back to them when it suits me. So it's like this long, rambling, beautiful conversation that goes on for months and months and months without us having to ever actually commit time in our calendar. So this new opportunity, this new way of connecting, you can sometimes take things from other areas like technology and apply it to your business or your personal life, for example. So that was a way that I loved to use it, using that new opportunity. It completely changed my business. Okay, so another one is opportunities and risks. Now let's talk about risks. Sign number 8 is that you're recognizing there is a risk of obsolescence for you. Now, this is not necessarily going to apply to everyone, but we all know the story of Tay-Tay, Taylor Swift, whereby I don't even know what year it was now. I haven't really been a Taylor Swift follower. I admit I am not a Swiftie. But everyone thought she was kind of going to disappear, because what year was it when she just pretty much didn't show up it was after Kanye West did that thing to her on stage. Swifties are going to come at me for this, for not having all of these details down pat. But I remember watching a doco about Taylor Swift, where she talked about how, she could have just sort of disappeared and she didn't show up anywhere for about a year. And when she came back with that Reputation album, everything was different. She'd completely rebranded herself, and now she is literally the greatest, she's sold the most albums out of anyone ever in history. And that risk of obsolescence, she turned it into an opportunity, which I think is absolutely epic. Staying relevant, if you remain stagnant when things are challenging, you don't necessarily have to keep up with everybody, but once again, you will become obsolete if you don't find a way to innovate and make things work for you. So in this particular case with Tay-Tay, she turned this opportunity into a way to rebrand herself so that she could come out all guns blazing. And she's since rebranded herself a number of times. She's like the queen of the rebrand, which was so cool. Another really obscure, I suppose, interesting example of the risk of obsolescence is someone who is a little bit, contested, but I actually love this person, Martha Stewart. So in 2004, Martha Stewart actually went to prison. She was first, I think, put in prison in her home, house arrest. And then she was put into, admittedly a pretty cushy prison, but she was done for insider trading. She faced significant setbacks. Her company, if you read her history, how she got started, what she did, I think she is an incredible woman. She had $1 billion company before most people were billionaires as a personal brand, which I just think is incredible. But this prison sentence, she got done for insider trading, and there was a risk of her it completely threatened her brand and her career at the time. Now, while she was serving her sentence, Martha Stewart actually taught workshops inside the prison that she was at. And she's since written a book called The Martha Rules. It's about how to do business, how she set up her business, how she grew her business, her philosophy on business. And she taught this to the other women in prison to help them when they got released to be able to think like her and do things like her and potentially start their own businesses. It was her way of staying entertained, giving back, and obviously, helping and supporting, which is a big part of her personal brand, which I think is so cool. But what's so awesome is after serving the sentence, she rebuilt her brand by expanding into all these new areas like online content, which she never had. It was magazines and TV before. She has licensed products through all different kinds of Target and things like that. She has partnerships with major retailers, and she even did partnership deals with Snoop Dogg. That is so so left of field, but talk about, no longer being obsolete anymore. So cool. Her resilience and her ability to diversify her business ventures just allowed her to regain a status as a leading lifestyle expert, and in my opinion, such a badass. So that's an example of how risk of obsolescence can turn someone into a completely different brand. Now, you might not be into some of the people that I've mentioned, but it's just there are so many examples of how you can go from good to great. Let's move to part 5 now. This is all about leadership and influence. Okay, so the last 2 signs. The first sign, or sign number 9, is that you have increasing influence or there is an opportunity to step into an increase in influence, like stepping into kind of thought leadership, perhaps in a role where you sort of fit in, you're doing whatever you're doing, but there's an opportunity to increase your influence. So becoming a thought leader, for example, in situations like this can actually propel you forward in an area where you're almost capped because you're inside of a corporation or something like that. I have clients who want to write books and do things, and they've actually created side businesses, consulting businesses, whereby they're still working inside of a big corporation, but they're very passionate, say, about meditation, or they're very passionate about women in leadership. And they've created these initiatives and things like that. And they're starting to stand out within their own companies and within their own personal brands. After making a transition, either a full transition or a part transition, into starting to speak up about the things that they are passionate about. Someone who has done this really well is Sheryl Sandberg. So in her early career, Sheryl Sandberg worked as a management consultant and then at the US Treasury Department before she joined I think it was Google. And then she joined Facebook as this chief operating officer in 2008, and she played a really pivotal role there in scaling the company's operations. They had massive growth. And so what she did was she leveraged that to increase her own influence. Stepping aside from Facebook, she became an influential leader in tech and beyond by authoring the book Lean In, and she founded the Lean In Foundation, which advocates for women's empowerment and leadership. Now she was already pretty great. She could have done rested on those laurels inside of Facebook, but she actually transitioned in a whole new way with a personal brand and increasing influence. So the signal here, or the sign, is that you have increasing influence already, but it doesn't mean you're capped with where that influence is coming from. Okay, so sign number 9 is increasing influence or a desire to increase influence. Sign number 10 is building a legacy. Now, building a legacy is pretty much an entire podcast episode in and of itself. But when someone has the desire to leave a legacy or start building a lasting legacy, the role in that is so motivating for growth. So if you're already building a legacy, you will likely be operating in alignment with your own purpose and your own values. You'll have some really long-term goals. You'll be documenting and sharing your knowledge. You'll be innovating. You'll be involving a community. And I can literally create a podcast for you on how to actually build a legacy, but we're talking here about the signs that you're ready to go from good to great. And one of those signs is that you're already thinking about legacy. Now, it might be something that you want to leave behind in terms of your business or your company, or it could be the fact that you would love to start creating generational wealth for your family. Legacy means whatever it means to you, but a legacy is something that lives beyond you. And if you're thinking about that, if you're thinking beyond your lifetime even, it is a great signal that you're ready to go from good to great. So some incredible examples of legacy: Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple, he revolutionized so many industries, personal computing, music, mobile phones. But his emphasis on innovation and design and user experience has just set these new standards for technology and business. Apple's ongoing success, even though Steve Jobs has passed now, it's brought continued relevance to products like the iPhone and iMac and iPad. They're testaments to his enduring influence and legacy of innovation. Another great example is Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks refused to give up her bus seat, and it became a pivotal moment in the American civil rights movement. That act of defiance and subsequent, involvement in the civil rights movement, they symbolize this fight against racial injustice, and her legacy is honored through so many awards and tributes and the ongoing work of the Rosa and Raymond Parks Institute for Self-Development for Women. There are songs about it. It is a legacy. So it doesn't have to be something that is grand and all enduring. It could be a simple moment, but the final one for me is Albert Einstein. So his contributions to theoretical physics. I'm an NLP nerd. I love quantum physics, particularly the theory of relativity. Obviously, it revolutionized our understanding of the whole kind of universe. And Albert Einstein was, not necessarily well respected until later on in his life. But his work laid this foundation for modern physics, and it's influenced so many scientific advancements. His legacy includes his advocacy, though, also for civil rights, and his contribution to philosophical discussions about science and society. And so many quotes that we still listen to and read today are Albert Einstein quotes, like the things he has said about what it requires to be a genius, about simplicity, about the way that we communicate ideas. Just incredible. So leaving a legacy is not, it's not the same sort of sign as the rest of them, because I think leaving a legacy is beyond us. But the intention to leave a legacy, the intention to serve humanity, the intention for your work to last beyond you is definitely a signal that you are ready to go from good to great. So it's not that that you're going to be remembered after you're dead for your theory of relativity or whatever. It is, though, about your intention to know that the work that you're focused on, you intend for it to make a long-lasting impact. And that's just something to think about. So those are our 10 signs that you're ready to go from good to great. And I hope you are feeling a little bit energized if any of these signs feel like you right now. So let's run through them again. Part 1 was recognizing the stagnation. The first sign was that your performance has plateaued a little bit. The second sign was that you're feeling like a little bit bored, a lack of a challenge. Part 2 was about the external indicators. So sign number 3 was increased competition or increased saturation. And sign number 4 was that needs are changing, be that the customer needs or your own needs. The next part number 3, was all about internal drives. And sign 5 was that you have a desire for impact. And sign number 6 was that you have this deep drive and deep passion for excellence. Remember, Michael Jordan and Serena Williams, that kind of impact. Part number 4 is like recognizing that there are opportunities and risks and that you are aware of them. So the 7th sign was that there are new opportunities available to you. You're not sure if you want to take them. And sign number 8 is that you're recognizing there is a risk of obsolescence going on. Then part 5 is about leadership and influence. Sign number 9 is that you have increasing influence or that you would like to have increasing influence. And sign number 10 is that you are already or you have the intention to build a legacy. So it's not a short episode here, but I really these are the kinds of signals and signs that you're ready to go from good to great. I really wanted to give you these examples that I did, even though it's kind of a journey on how people did do the transition, but the signals are there and they often feel really frustrating. Things feel hard, things feel stagnant, things feel stuck, things feel like they're not working. And I'm very passionate about coaching people at this very poignant time when it feels like everything might be about to end, in helping people see that no, it is just the beginning. And what I know for sure is that what is required to go from good to great is shifting from an incremental mindset, which is how we are all typically conditioned to create success, to exponential thinking, to thinking in a completely different way where your projects and your work and your legacy become bigger than you. So what I'd like to give you to take away is the next step for you. If you like this episode, if you think, yeah, you know what, some of these things are me. I really loved these examples. I'm inspired by these people. I can see it, but I have no idea actually how I would go from good to great. I have no idea. I think I might be ready, but I'm not even sure because all I'm feeling is frustrated right now. I have something for you. I have been working away at a new free resource for you. It is called the Good to Great Guide. It's completely free. And I want you to go ahead and download the guide. Inside this audio program, which you will have immediate access to, I'm going into what it actually looks like to go from good to great, how you need to think, the way you need to change how you think, what you need to do, how to do the self-assessment, how to set new goals. We're going to talk about going from good to great and exponential thinking and making the switch and how to deal with taking that leap in going from good to great. Because what I know for sure is the reason why we feel frustrated is because we feel like we've reached the end of the road in terms of our effort, in terms of our time, in terms of, everything that we can put in. And it's a very disheartening place. And I don't want to see people stop or quit at this point, because people who listen to this podcast and the type of people I work with are really great humans. And I think that we need more really great humans with more access to resources and more success, because I know you do really good things with that privilege. So what I would love for you to do is at the end of this episode, number 1, if you liked it and you know someone who it could help, please do share it. It means so much to me. You can give us a review, but also go down to the bottom and click the link to the Good to Great Guide, download it, have a listen, and I would love to know your thoughts. It's completely free. I've put so much love and heart into this experience for you to teach you how to go from good to great. And I would love, 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 love to take this further with you. So I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And I want you to know before I sign off that you, my friend, are already on the journey of going from good to great. So if you're feeling frustrated right now, it's okay. Get excited. Listen to these signals as opportunities, as moments where you can either choose to be energized or drained. And I want you to give yourself time to dream. Time to then turn those dreams into goals and to remember everything you want is so much closer than you think. So stay curious, stay open, go and download the Good to Great Guide, and I'll see you in